collaborate with the gays in this radio?
Yeah, a short time, okay, the TV, Urban TV came, starting beating us. These are gays. The
journalists, they were all around. Hey, tell us why are you a guy? Well, hey. Mob justice started. They started beating my Mukisake and tell us why you're doing this way. Hey, we heard that that one is calling himself Rihanna. Tell us why you're calling yourself Rihanna. And this one is the wife, and maybe this one is the husband. So now tell us, you're the wife. Tell us. I had to bear it. After they took me to Nankulabia police station, we are so confused. I told my colleague, you know what? Really, we are done. At least they are going to take us there for 5 years or 7 years. We are so scared. They took me to the clinic. They had to check me. You're bad.
bend over.
My God. So when I reached there, they told us to pull off the panties and like they check us. They check me with them. I've ever been fucked. They checked me up. Maybe he found that I'm from fucked. They took me back to the cell. They told me that hey, after that you're negative as in testing the blood test, but hey, you guys you're sodomized. Hey, Muksaki sodomized you. We felt so scared. By the way, we felt so scared when we reached in prison. Things were not so easy. The place was so disgusting. It was so disgusting. Even I reached there, they told me that is your food. Do you know a maize brand? Yeah? They brought some maize brand.
For the pigs.
For real, I just touched in the food. I felt like I want to vomit. They pull it. Since you're a gay, the plate you have to use it's different. The food you eat is also different. The bathroom you have to use the different. You have to sleep on a floor. You understand? On a floor. Because since you are gay.
You can even sleep in the bathroom.
Don't come closer.
When they
to me.
get to know that you
can
sleep in the bathroom.
You gays. Why didn't you push these gays to the toilet? It came to the second month. It came to the third one. But when it came to that coming fourth one, then the magistrate said, okay, you can be, they call it a bail, a court bail. You can be bailed.
The life was not easy when I get out from the prison, because I used to stay with my parents. Now my parents they don't even to know about me. They don't even to hear about Kim's name.
If you go to a landlord and say, "Hi, would I like to get a house here, madam?" Hey, I saw you, mama. I saw you in newspapers.
Yeah, but I feel so happy. When I heard that the case is dismissed, I feel so happy.
Africa is made up of so many thousands of ethnic groups that have very rich cultures, very rich different sexualities. So there's no way you can begin talking about anything being an African, especially sexuality being an African. You know, those same arguments of an African are used to justify women's subordination. You know, especially when we try to assert our rights to sexual autonomy, then you will hear the same mantra, you know, it is an African.
The argument that this is neo-colonialism, this is an imposition on Western societies, is completely a false argument. Put a human face to homosexuality and look at the people who are homosexuals. Look them in the eye and see. Some of these guys have never been to Britain, have never been to the West. Some have never been to Kampala. They're in the villages. How then would the Western culture find them in their locale, in their villages?
Zimbabwe, they discovered ancient caves where they found cave drawings of two men having sex in what seemed like a ritualistic fashion. There's so many examples all over Africa, from north to the south, east, west. For example, in Uganda, we have the Mudoko Dako, who were really effeminate males among the Langi in northern Uganda. And these males were allowed to marry fellow men. They would live together, and it was part of their lives. It was, in southern Africa, among the Shangaan, for example, there were same-sex relations that are known as inkotshani, and this meant, it means male wife, and it was part of their culture, part of their, everyday practice. So, we could go on and on, woman-to-woman marriages among the Kisi in Kenya, among the Igbo in Nigeria, the Nuer in Sudan, and so on. So there's a lot of evidence to debunk that myth that homosexuality is an-African.
There's a panic about immorality, there's a panic about, sexual mores, but there's a wider crisis, which is a political crisis. And politicians are using sexual minorities in order to avoid paying attention to the key issues which they should be paying attention to.
Now, when the law was introduced in Parliament, it took a different twist. As opposed to being a law that sought to make an act criminal, the law was then being used for meeting people's own political ends, namely the Speaker of Parliament, who at the time was said to be angling to contest for the presidency. When she realized that the law was so famous amongst people here in the country, she took it upon herself, became her own personal crusade, and it is said that she then promised the country the law as a Christmas gift and promised to pass it.
I will now instruct the chair of the Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs to quickly bring the report on the anti-homosexuality bill so that we discuss it and the people of Uganda can take a position publicly.
We had managed to keep it at bay for over 5 years, and we are always a little bit worried about December, since the Speaker talked of a Christmas gift.
She mobilized pastors, the same pastors who appeared at the time when the law was being introduced, for the same pastors who appeared in Parliament.
It was interesting that in the audience were all of these pastors and other, religious leaders, but there was nobody on the other side. And so, in our view, the bill was actually smuggled in.
I heard about the bill being going to be discussed as a rumor and tried to find out. And when I reached office, I went to the website of Parliament to check on the order paper, and it wasn't on. But before I knew it, they said actually the bill is being discussed. And I followed the proceedings from Twitter.
And I remember I was on the phone, and one of the allies was telling me, what I'm going to do right now, let me call our members of Parliament who have been who oppose this legislation to go in Parliament and oppose the motion or try to derail so that we are able to put in some input, also for us to make it to Parliament and listen to the proceedings.
Frank was talking to someone on the phone, and they were trying to find means whereby to maybe talk to MPs, maybe to go and oppose the bill in the House and everything like that. And before I knew it, I just saw this tweet saying the bill has been passed.
Richard presented the computer in my face with the Twitter saying the law has been passed. And checking on my WhatsApp message, I had the same message from the journalists in Parliament. And then I told my ally on the phone that actually the law has been passed. And I said, I can't believe it because it can't be passed. I'm like, it has been passed.
And I want to thank the Speaker of Parliament for the courage and providing leadership to defend the children of Uganda and the cause for humanity.
They just sneaked it in and passed it. and all of a sudden they had given Ugandans the promised Christmas gift.
It was passed without notification of the bill being on the order paper. We didn't know about it, and we had been tracking the progress of the bill throughout the time that it had spent in Parliament.
I started receiving so many phone calls from local, international, and regional media, partners and allies, the LGBT community. My phone was ringing every second. And then also, I had to start thinking about the organization, about the movement, about our member organizations. What is the way forward?
That day was really hard. I called everyone I knew. I texted everyone I knew. People called me and everything. It was really busy. I remember leaving very late in the night from office. It's created a lot of strife among family members, people neglecting, and I see relationships breaking. I not having good contact with my family just because of this bill. And very right to do that, to stay away from me, or me staying away from them, is because the bill actually calls for them to take me to police or even doctors. So I'm seeing a lot of conflict.
The Civil Society Coalition held a large meeting to strategize on how to respond to the passage of the Anti-Homosexuality Act by the Ugandan Parliament.
We always react to the wrongdoings of those who hold power. But somehow we have to juggle reacting with also being proactive and being a step ahead. And try and make sure that we don't allow others to promote persecution.
It was a very emotional moment for me. Having worked on this bill for so long, I felt a high sense of betrayal, because also the anti-pornography bill was passed, and I felt really this is so much around why do people want to control sexuality? Why do they want to control bodies? When you look at this bill and the anti-pornography bill, it creates new structures that are supposed to report to Parliament on an annual basis. So it gives legitimacy of the Ministry of Ethics and Integrity to exist. Which Ministry of Ethics and Integrity, like we all know, is always occupied by right-wing Christian fundamentalists. In other words, it instills the use of Christianity to determine state matters.
Even though it was passed, we felt, okay, we failed to prevent the bill from being passed. Now let's move to the next stage, which is trying to persuade the president not to assent.
We have lots of concerns about the bill as it was passed. And so we called this press conference today to address some of these concerns that we have.
The Ministry of Health recently rolled out the establishment of clinics to target most at-risk populations. If this bill is assented to and made into law, that will mean that even the Ministry of Health interventions are actually criminal. Most at-risk populations who are at high risk of HIV infection will be denied an opportunity to get services.
If assented to by the President, the anti-homosexuality bill will impose unnecessary and counterproductive attempts to control the citizenry and civil society of this country. Far from promoting morality, the anti-homosexuality bill strengthens the enemies of democracy. We therefore condemn the bill in no uncertain terms.
The President had made all indications before 24th of February that he would not sign the law. His letter was a scathing attack on Parliament and a scathing attack on the person of the Speaker of Parliament. So there were all indications that he wasn't going to sign the law because he disagreed with the law, fundamentally. But certain geopolitical events happened in this region that forced the hand of the President. Uganda was heavily involved in the conflict in the Sudan. There was a public fallout between the US and Uganda in which the head of state of the United States asked President Museveni publicly to withdraw from Sudan. That in many ways angered President Museveni. And in so doing, he found resort in the AHL as a way of getting back at the American head of state for his public rebuke for Museveni's role in South Sudan. Nationally, the president went on a countrywide tour, Christmas tour around the country. And at every place the president went, he was being told by religious leaders, by ordinary people, to sign the law. His own political party, in a party caucus retreat, made a public plea to the president to sign this law in exchange for the party declaring him as a sole candidate in the forthcoming election. So it became a politically very convenient thing to do for the head of state, and he signed the law into an act of parliament.
Even now, I have not really fully understood it, that you can fail to be attracted to all these beautiful women here and elsewhere, and you are attracted by a man. That's a very serious matter. It means there's something really wrong with you.
That was, I would say, one of the worst days of my life. That day I felt lost. That day I felt that all we had done was for naught, was for nothing.
We saw this very harsh reaction from not only law enforcers, but including our fellow Ugandans. People started being evicted, people started being thrown out of homes, being thrown out of school, and the reference was always there is a law, the president saying the law.
The debate around this matter just sparked off unprecedented hatred towards a very small minority in our country.
I'm scared that one morning I could be walking on the street or just getting out of the gate and I'm attacked. And when that's going to happen and how, I don't know. It makes me so scared. Another is what would happen if we're thrown into prisons? What will happen to the voice of the LGBTI people who speak out for the rights of the LGBTI people, who continue to make sure that people's human rights are respected?
After passing the anti-homosexuality bill, I changed my way of working after the pain I was passing through and the pain the community members were passing through. I started realizing that gay people were referred to as rubbish, and I decided to collect rubbish, scrap metal, rubbish, and I do my art. Being a gay person, I don't look at myself as rubbish. That is why I decided to collect rubbish and then assemble it to create beautiful artworks, still representing the gay community as beautiful people. We're not rubbish, as they say. How educated people use the law to discriminate. When you look at tying people in chains, like when you look at the speaker herself is educated, she has read a lot of books, and they are turning books into hate. That people rather stay in jail instead of being out and beaten by people who really hate gay people. People inside are not cared for, but the gay people feel loved inside the prisons because of what they are when they get out. They're rubbish outside, they're beaten up. But when they're in the jail, that looks already horrible, they're safer there. I was doing a residency in Kansanga. They were housing me for 3 months. They were paying me. And then when the bill was passed, my image was shown on BBC. So they captured it and had it. So they called me and they're like, you're putting our organization at risk. They might think we're part of people promoting homosexuality. So they're like, you should move out. Actually, they gave me 6 hours to move, to forget the place. With my dad, somebody got this tabloid paper and then gave it to him. He's like, look at your daughter. He told me never to step back.
So literally your father disowned you?
Yeah, that is what he did. We have never talked since that day. It has been a very hard time.
One of the biggest effects was the raid on Walter Reed Project. Walter Reed Project is US government funded, and it was doing research. It was under the university, Makerere University. It was doing research, and it was providing services to LGBTI people. When it was raided, its staff were arrested, and then the American embassy ordered for its closure. The effect was immense because a nation that was that powerful, supported by a powerful government, all of a sudden was raided and closed.
The daylight affront on the research facility, the arrest of the staff members, the impounding of confidential patients' information, the impounding of materials such as lubricants, such as condoms and books and manuals, sent fears across the country amongst organizations that the provision of services can lead you into trouble.
So the government selectively picked out the strongest amongst us and targeted them, and that meant effectively, like a domino effect, that small organizations would fall off, which eventually happened.
The law had a widespread impact on LGBTI people and services. Many were affected. We traveled to interview LGBTI people and service providers to learn how they were impacted, even as we ourselves were also affected.
Our service, depends on giving out materials from materials that help prevention of HIV, and these included things like condoms, lubricants, reading materials, all those which at that time had become a crime, in the books of the laws of Uganda. So we could not afford to keep anything within our premises. So all that was cleared out. Even the staff feared to, be seen in the office. And during that period, there was also visible surveillance by suspected security operatives. So it was